Yisrael, this is great. Welcome back. I think last time was a lot of fun. It was I think it was very informative. So let's go. Let's go for round two.
David, I've been, as you know, I've been bursting at the seams, looking forward to doing this second podcast with you. I got incredible feedback from anyone from people in Israel, from friends of mine in Israel, from my aunt, telling me my beard looks really handsome, which I shaved off. And all sorts of friends of mine reached out and said they really enjoyed it. They felt we had a different take. We were very honest and refreshing. And I think I enjoy this because I get to put everything out on the table. I don't feel like we beat around the bush too much. And I think we try as best as we can to kind of address the issues that I hope is on everybody's mind. I don't know, but I hope if you're listening in and if you're tuned in right now to our second podcast, this should be on everybody's mind. This should be on your mind. And you got to be thinking about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first thing I don't know about you, David, but I had probably a half a dozen people ask me when I'm making Aliyah. They thought that this was my announcement that I'm moving right now and that I'm ready to go. I
So
just
Yisrael, I have to ask you something.
Yeah.
When are you making Aliyah?
So actually, I will tell you, my hope is in 2 years from now, my kids will be finished high school, and the truth is, with all the trauma I experienced, as we talked about, I am scared to have them face that when there's only 2 years left for them to finish school. I know a lot of people, maybe even listening to this, are worried about chinuch issues. Perhaps you as well, David. It is a real issue, and I feel bad because I talk about this without addressing that part because for me personally, I don't know about lucky, but I happen to be in the situation where my kids are older. I don't have any younger kids, and it's not something that is on my mind that I'm dealing with. So therefore I feel more gung-ho about we need to get there already, and I kind of avoid that part. So we could talk about that, and I have a lot to say on that matter, by the way. And one of them has to do with your trip when you took to Israel. And we could divert to that to a second because I was blown away by how you discussed a specific individual in Ramat Beit Shemesh that opened up a school that sort of he opened up because he felt that there wasn't really the needs of the chinuch system being dealt with in Israel. And it's true, and it wasn't. And instead of saying what we're all saying, all of us are saying, well, we can't go because they're not dealing, what are we going to do? He went and dealt with it. And I feel like, to a certain degree, as a frum Jew, the attitude should always be, if this is what I need to do, how do I make it real? Do I need a lulav? Do I need an esrog? Do I need a matzah? You don't say, oh, well, I don't have a sukkah in my yard, so I'm not keeping sukkahs this year. You don't have that attitude. But yet when it comes to Israel, it's like, okay, well, my attitude is my rabbanim say chinuch is tough, and I know chinuch is tough, and my friends moved and they're struggling with their kids, so I'm not going to go. That guy went, made a school that would work for not just his kids, but for everybody, and created a whole niche in the Ramat Beit Shemesh community that didn't exist before. That type of school didn't exist. It might not be perfect, but it addresses a lot of what those kind of kids might need, as well as it talks to the point of, don't say there's no school. Go and make it happen. What do we need to do to make it work for us?
I don't even know who you're referring to because there were so many people like that in Eretz Yisrael. That was the one thing one of my big takeaways from that trip was just how many people are there on the ground doing so much, putting in so much effort, so much talent, creating opportunities for their own families, but also for others. It's really extraordinary how people are trying to make it work for other people. They're being, it used to be there was a time when Americans came to Eretz Yisrael and you're on your own, and it's a completely different landscape right now.
But it's
It's
because people went and didn't say there's nothing there for me. They made what needs to be there for themselves
absolutely.
and for others. Why do we have to take the approach? I'm not moving from my comfy home in Baltimore because it doesn't exist this type of thing in Israel. What kind of an attitude is that? All the people that
And I'll tell you a small example. Like one of the challenges that come up is the language barrier, right? And people are like, well, I can't go because I don't speak Ivrit or my kids don't speak Ivrit. Well, two things. First of all, it's not as much an issue as of an issue now because most people in Ramat Beit Shemesh and other places, speak English. But beside for that, so learn Ivrit. Learn it. It's not impossible, like,
Right.
why don't our schools teach our children to speak Ivrit? Okay, that's a question, and I'd love if anyone could speak to
It's a
the
big
whoever.
issue. It
Yeah.
has to do, then again, this is
Le-
what I spoke
but
to you
but
about.
then say so. Let me just so we should push our schools that they should teach our children of it, and for ourselves, let's get together. Navakosh, we're trying to do this right now. We're putting together a women's group. If anyone knows of a man who can teach Ivrit, that would be great. And let's learn Ivrit. Like, why is it like we have these challenges, we just throw up our hands? Like, it's with anything else, with all the things in our community, with all the challenges that we face, right? With all these crises, we always get together and we put our kaiches together, and we try to fix the problem. We try to address it. We have a shidduch crisis. We have this project that spend millions of dollars in advertising, and we try to convince people to get married younger. Whatever it is, I don't know. Like, I think the part of the challenge is that we don't look at it as a crisis.
Right. So that exactly what I wanted to say. You're leading up to that point. So first of all, I'd like to say that we have a lot of respect for our Rabbanim, and I mentioned in the last podcast to discuss this idea of Das Torah, and we decided we're not going to bring it up in at least right now, because it has to be talked about in a sensitive way. So maybe I'll have my own little podcast to discuss it. I know people ask me if I'm going to discuss it, but I think we could at least address what you just said. Okay. We had an event here at Navakodesh. We had two events. We've had a lot of trying to raise the awareness of how our homes should be looked at as Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, whatever, anywhere in Israel, that we need to not look at living here as the permanent place for the Jewish people. But I don't think, see, we're trying to create a movement of that feeling, in my opinion, because it doesn't exist. It's not like we're looking at a problem, how do we fix it? We're trying to create it into the fact that maybe people see it as a problem.
Hmm.
People are so comfortable, I think, with the idea that we are, I don't want to say meant to be here in America, but I mean, it's very sad. Okay, I don't know how many different videos and things you watched on Tisha B'av, and I think the most appropriate time to be discussing this stuff is Tisha B'av. I hope everyone, at least to some degree, focused on this topic, because I think as much as we talk about sinas chinam and lashon hara and all that, and it's great and it needs to be talked about, I think this has come to a time where we need to look at, we're sad about something and we're not doing anything about it. And I feel that in our hearts, I'm scared to say this a little bit, but I'm going to throw it out there. Okay. We know that, and we speak about Reformed Jews before the Holocaust, that they said Berlin is our new Jerusalem, right? We don't need Israel. I don't know if you've heard this before, but apparently, and this maybe is a known thing, but before the Bayis Sheni, they said we're. I think you said it actually at the event, that they sent a letter to Ezra saying we're okay over here. We don't need to go back. We have all our spirituality. I don't know where they were, Bavel, Persia, wherever. We have what we need, and I think everyone here, me, you, and every single Jew that's not living in Israel, needs to ask themselves if there isn't a little bit of that in our hearts, that we feel that we could totally serve Hashem 100%. We have no need for his land. We have no need for Yerushalayim. We have no need. We have a wonderful shul and great shiurim and amazing community and wonderful chesed. What do we need anything more than that? Right? What do we need Hashem to tell us that we need more than that? Why do we need more than that? What's wrong with that? I feel great spirituality in I don't want to say specific names, but my ex shul on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, so powerful. And my davening every Shabbos is perfect in the shul that I go to. Why do I need more than that? My I don't want to say the words, but some people might feel that this is where we need to. How many shuls are building extensions and doing campaigns and stuff because they're looking at this place? I'm going to throw this out there. I don't want to say bad things, but you yourself pointed out to me, and I just saw it again today, about a community in the middle of nowhere in America that's trying to build themselves up. Okay. as a perfect place, the ideal community, the ideal place to move to, something that I would reserve only to speak about a community in Eretz Yisrael. Like I would expect that would be something you would do in somewhere in Israel.
It's the dream of every Jew to
It's
live in North
right, and they're
Carolina.
using language like that that scary to me. It's scary to me because that sounds like what we talk about when we talk about in history, the mistakes that the Jews made up until even before the Holocaust. And they talk about the golden Medina in America and like what every person should ask themselves, if you're not in Israel right now, what is your attitude towards your life here versus your life there? If you're viewing that as your home and this is just where you are now and you're figuring out how you're going to make it your home and get there, or do you just feel this is where Hashem wants us right now? I heard somebody came over to me. I went to Camp Shoresh. Okay. You know where that is in Frederick? I went there. I spoke to about 50 teenagers on Tisha B'Av, and I talked about this. I was very hard. Some of these are not for, I was like, in your face, this is Tisha B'Av. We have to be real. And I said, and a girl came over to me and she said, I'm Chabad. And apparently one Rebbe went over to one of his Talmidim in Europe and who wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. And he said to his Talmud, make your Arba Amos, your Dalet Amos, your Eretz Yisrael. Wherever you walk, make that. You don't need to go there. Make that your Eretz Yisrael. When you're in your base medrash, when you're davening, make that your Eretz Yisrael. That's what our avoda here is to do. Make the Eretz Yisrael wherever you go should be kadosh like Eretz Yisrael, and then you're mekayim the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael because you could make it anywhere you are.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like be a Jew in your heart. You don't have to keep Shabbos. You don't have to do mitzvahs. Just be a Jew in your heart. That's what that sounds like to me.
I mean, I'm sort of laughing, but we should be crying about
Yeah.
that. We
Yeah.
should be crying about that because these are from people. These are people that are serving Hashem right.
Yeah, and by the way, Yisrael, I don't know the context of that story. It could be this person had to be in Chutz La'aretz because he was on a mission, whatever it is, and that's where he was meant to be. And the Rebbe and he was saying like, look, do your best, to over here to bring Eretz Yisrael, to Galus or whatever
I
it is.
really
But
hope you're
it
right.
could be he wasn't saying that this really replaces Eretz Yisrael. Now it could be what people are extrapolating from that is wrong in the way they're applying it. So let's not put down the person in the story,
Right,
but
I don't want to mention
yeah,
names. I shouldn't say
yeah,
anything. And honestly, David, again, I want to use examples only because I think I'm trying to feel people. We had 300 views on our last
mhm,
podcast, which
mhm,
is a nice amount. People, I want to hear. I'm actually going to personally ask people if they could comment on this YouTube video. I don't know if we could put it in other places. I would like to hear back. I want to get a sense. I want to get the temperature of where we are as Jews who live in any community, anywhere here. Could be Baltimore, Toronto. I reached someone who watched it from Muncie, Hasidish guy, said to me also, when are you making Aliyah? And I said, well, when are you making Aliyah? He said, no, 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 I have to be rich to make Aliyah. I said, really? You have to
mm.
be rich to make Aliyah? What does that mean? He said, well, I need $2 million to buy a house, and I'm going to need like $20 million so I don't have to work anymore. And until that, I'm not moving. And I said to him, I mean, if I had $20 million, that would be great, but nobody's giving you $20 million. I don't even know what that means. He said, well, I'm Hasidish, and Hasidish people in Israel, it's frowned on, apparently, if you're not in Kollel or in yeshiva, if you're like trying to work to make a living. I didn't know if that was true or not, but at least maybe the
Yeah.
community he's a part of. So he said, and he said, I'm very spoiled. I have a big house, and I need to have the same lifestyle if I'm going to move. I don't know if people have any idea what Israel's all about, but I don't think Hashem wants us to have some of these lifestyles that we have, that we need $20 million and a $2 million house. I think
Yeah.
part of moving to Israel is also shedding some of that attitude. I think that we should address the fact that Jews in America are living in a way that maybe is not what Hashem wants from us in the first place. And that we're using it as an excuse for like, well, this is how I'm comfortable with, this is what I should be doing. Our kids are not learning the right lessons, and I don't think we're teaching ourselves the right lessons. when we have that attitude. I think Baltimore used to be, it's not as much anymore. It used to be very relatively not so materialistic. But I know there's a lot of from communities where people are really caught up in their cars and houses and restaurants and stuff. And I think, like I mentioned in the last podcast, a person has to ask themselves, maybe not you, there are people that are not like this. And that's where the Das Torah thing and the chinuch stuff, and there's other reasons why they don't move. But I think some people really are not being honest with themselves. I feel guilty about it. Look at,
Baltimore. You brought up Baltimore, and it's interesting that Baltimore also happens to be a place that I think is more Aliyah minded than other cities in the United States, and I think maybe it has to do with that. Maybe just because Baltimore people are used to a simpler lifestyle, and we're not as caught up in generally not as caught up in the Gashmiistic lifestyle of America, which makes it easier for us to detach from it.
I mean, I look around and I see even Baltimore starting to pull in, I mean, certain neighborhoods, the size of the
Yeah.
house. It's, we have to ask ourselves what is real and what, let me give you a mushroom because I said this at my shop. I don't know if you like this. My
Okay.
Shabbos just dropped in my head. Think about what happened with Esav. Esav came and was arguing with all the Shvatim. I am supposed to be buried here, not Yaakov. We're at the Mars Machpelah, right? And this is where Yaakov's supposed to be buried next to Leah. And he said, no, I was really supposed to marry Leah. I'm going to be buried here. I'm the firstborn. So Naphtali's running back. They're all trying to figure out all these complicated calculations. And the son of Dun, I think his name was Hushim, runs up and chops Esav's head off because all he could see is his grandfather laying there, not getting buried, a red, hairy old man trying to stop them. He doesn't know what's going on, chops his head off. I think we get so caught up in our details here of what needs to work, what needs to not work. Let's get it ready. There's all these problems. I'm not sure. If you step away and just look, and I know we talked about maybe addressing anti-Semitism, which is something I think that should be looked at. Just look at what in the world is happening in this world. That there's like 7 million Jews in Israel. Okay. 4,000 of them went on Har Bias, which I never thought was even possible. It's like things are rapidly changing. Somebody actually did the Shtei Halechem on Shavuos. There's a video about it. Things are like really, really changing. There's like paradumas left and right. I'm seeing videos about like things that didn't exist for the longest time are so rapidly changing. And we're like, want to ignore it. We want things to just like put our head down. There's a lot going on. Let's just keep going. Things are fine. I don't want, it's almost like people don't want to address what's going on around them because it's too hard to deal with. We're dealing with a time where everyone has to really like ask themselves again, it's not a normal time we're living in. Living in a
Can,
different time.
can I tell you an interesting angle? I was just there's a fellow I met when I was in Eretz Yisrael. His name is Rabbi Leo D. He has a very interesting backstory. He was when he lived in England, he was a venture capitalist. He moved to Eretz Yisrael, and tragically, his wife and daughter were killed in a terrorist attack. And he since then he really rebuilt his life, and he's been spreading the message of Eretz Yisrael. He remarried, and he wrote this book. He just came out with a book. It's called The Business Case for Israel. And the premise of the book is that if you look at life like a venture capitalist, right? If you're looking at life not in a micro sense, but in a macro sense. Like if somebody who is, let's say you have like a professional investor. So you have, the type of investor who's going to look at things is going to say, well, I want to see I want to invest in what I know and what's most comfortable for me. And then you look like, what do I Heinz ketchup. I put it on my hot dogs, it tastes good. Must be I see everyone's eating Heinz ketchup. Let's put my money in Heinz ketchup. That's one kind of investor. But then a really good investor is going to a real, venture capitalist is going to look at the climate, is going to look at trends, is going to look at right, and they're going to invest their money based off of the big picture. And he said, even if you're looking at it from a very practical perspective and not an ideological perspective, let's compare investing in the United States or in Chutz La'aretz versus investing in Eretz Yisrael. And really, wherever we're living and we're planting roots, it's an investment. We're investing in our future in that place. And he just pointed out, and he just demonstrates in his book, in every single metric, Eretz Yisrael is moving up, and Chutz La'aretz is is going down. He demonstrates in like in terms of the economy, how the Israeli economy is going up and the American economy is going down. And if you're, if you're, so we have to look at it not just what's the here and now. We have to the way we our perspective, and this is the case that he's making, is that we have to understand what we're investing in. So even from a very practical and pragmatic point of view, when we're living here and we're investing and we're making our buildings bigger and we're putting money into organizations and we're putting money into our houses and into our families here in the United States, we're investing in a diminishing asset. When we're in Eretz Yisrael, right, we are investing in an asset that's actually going up. That's appreciating. So that's just one more argument, for
It's such
us.
a beautiful argument. I mean, David, I don't even that was one that like blew my mind right now what you just said. Like because it's so logical also. It's not like people sometimes think that these Har Bias guys and these Efrat guys and these is people move to Israel, they're like throwing caution to the wind and they're like fanatics. But actually what you're saying is that even a normal, regular, mainstream from Jew who has a head on his shoulders, who is doing what needs to be done, should realize that by staying here, you're planting roots here. Okay,
Mhm.
you're investing in your community. You're showing everyone around that this is where you should be because everyone's kind of looking around at each other now. Okay,
Yeah.
whenever someone makes Aliyah, like, oh, okay, so my neighbor moved, maybe I should start thinking about it more. So that when you don't do that, you're creating more permanence for people here because everyone's going, well, David Page is still here, even though he's talking about moving to Israel. I guess it's not that big of a deal.
So, can we make it not so personal?
Sorry. So the fact of the matter is that just from the logical standpoint of a Jewish people growing and what we all should be offering with our lives as part of that country, everyone should be thinking, how do I slowly shrink myself here and move myself there? And I want to say this because I hope you don't mind. I hope you'll forgive me. And if you don't want to talk about it or if it's too much on this subject, fine. But I just say, okay, that I think Hashem tests us in this area more than anything else. The Meraglim should have been the greatest tzaddikim. They chose the absolute best people. And if you think about it, they probably were like maybe the rabbanim of each one of these shvatim. And if 10 of the shvatim would have asked their rabbi what to do when the shvatim got back, they would have said, well, it's just not, you're not going to make it. And there was, how did that happen? What's going on? Why is living in Israel so frowned upon and so hard to experience as something that we should be doing? And I think when I heard this, it also blew my mind. I'm going to say so again, this is topics that maybe some people aren't ready to talk about, but there are parts of Har Bias that even like 20 years ago, there were rabbis. There's a video of Rabbi Tendler. Apparently people knew that he went and he went up. There are rabbis that knew and felt that if you go to the mikvah and you do certain things and you go up, that it's actually a great thing. It's kedusha when it's addressed properly is supposed to be encountered and made and part of our life to be scared of, but actually to bring into
Mhm.
our life and to use and to connect through it. So when we're so scared and we make the whole Harabayas into a place that no one could even go near, it kind of makes an attitude of Kedusha is we're not ready for it. It's not, it's too much. It's not something that ever is, it's like we can't even imagine. Like if someone started building the base of Migdash, even if they were Mashiach, we might get scared because we've
Mhm.
lived with an attitude of gullus is where we need to be very cautious. We be careful. We can't be like the Mapilim. We can't be like the, I don't know, people in Ephraim that left 30 years early. We're scared of doing the wrong thing, but nobody
Yeah.
knows really what the right thing is.
So I
And
just so I just wanna Israel, I just wanna make a, what do they call it, when they speak really fast at the end of commercials?
disclaimer.
I wanna make a disclaimer that the views expressed here are not necessarily those of
Right.
me or
Correct. I am
Navakodesh
speaking
or
only for
anything.
myself, but
Yes,
I'm
okay.
throwing out there
Yes.
that it's possible. It's possible, and I might be totally wrong, but it's possible
Mhm.
that for each and every one of us Hashem is creating certain stumbling blocks that we need to explore for ourselves to be able to understand what is the next step in our lives when we're living in this Mashiach time of everybody's life.
Can I tell you a Dvar Torah
Yeah, I want to
on
hear
that
it.
subject? So there's a Ramban in Parshas Korach, and I'm not going to talk about how it's related to Parshas Korach. It's actually very tangential. But the Ramban talks about how by David HaMelech he he counted Klal Yisrael, which resulted in he wasn't supposed to do that, and that resulted in a magefa, in a plague. And David HaMelech he turns to Hashem and he says, "I don't understand. Klal Yisrael was punished because of what I did. Why should they suffer the consequences of something of a mistake that I made?" And I don't remember the exact lashon of the Navi, but it says something like Hashem said, "No, I'm angry at them too," and it's very cryptic. And Rashi says, "I don't know what this pasuk is referring to. Why is Hashem angry, upset at Klal Yisrael as well?" So the Ramban says a pshat. He says that the reason that the Rebbeinu Shalom was upset at the Yidden is because it says in the pasuk about Harabayas and really about Shechina in general. It says Ushechno Sidrshu Uvasa Shama. It's coming up in the coming parshios. It's in Devarim. It says that we should be Doresh the Shechina, and once we do that Uvasa Shama, then we will go there. Then we will arrive there. And that's exactly what happened with David HaMelech. David HaMelech was Doresh, the Makam Migdash. He was Doresh Yerushalayim. Up until David HaMelech, we didn't know where the Makam Migdash was supposed to be. Uvasa Shama, and once he was Doresh that, then the Navi says, here it is. But that doesn't just apply to the base of Migdash. That applies to anything to do with Shechina. That applies to what our topic, Eretz Yisrael, as well. That all these things are connected. And the idea was, and the Ramban goes on to say, that really, so why was the Rebbeinu Shalom angry at Klal Yisrael? Because Klal Yisrael waited so many years and so many generations until David HaMelech came along and he said, you know what? The Aron and the Shechina needs a place to rest, a permanent place, a permanent house. And nobody before David HaMelech thought of this or was Doresh or worked on this. And it took David HaMelech to do it. And once David HaMelech did it, so then that's why it's called base, that's why it's called Beis David, but the Ramban says really it was supposed to be called Beis Yisrael because Klal Yisrael should have been the ones. And he said specifically, Hashem didn't command them to build the Beis Hamikdash because it had to come from them, right, and or from us. And it's the same thing over here. And I believe this is what I believe is that the reason that the Hashgacha has it that it's not that these things don't come top down, but are actually working through grassroots, bottom up is because that's how the Rebbeinu Shalom wants it. The Rebbeinu Shalom wouldn't have it any other way. It has to come from us. It has to come from the people. We have to recognize it, and we have to be Doresh Eretz Yisrael. And Eretz Yisrael is also something Boi Drisha. The Gemara says that Mechlal de Boi Drisha, that Eretz Yisrael need because the Yirmiyahu says Doresh Ein Bo, right? There's nobody who's being Doresh Eretz Yisrael. That's what he laments. And the Gemara says Mechlal de Tzarech Drisha. It needs that Eretz Yisrael needs Drisha. And if we're Doresh Eretz Yisrael as a community, not as heads of a community, not as leadership, not as people from on high, but as the everyday Yid, so then that's when we're Doresh Eretz Yisrael, Uvasa Shama. Then it'll happen. What will happen? Everything that we're aspiring to, everything we daven for every single day. That's
David,
what will happen.
just stop, pause. Let that sink in what you just said. I want anyone who's listening now to just be quiet for 5 seconds. Every person, every Jew needs to ask for this themselves. Okay, you don't need to ask anybody around. Remember we talked about how we want to learn the sugya, right? We want to go through and talk about it
Hmm.
because the topic that Hashem speaks to us through the Torah, right?
Hmm.
Like the Jews in the Midbar that just were given this message from Hashem. We already have a Torah that has the whole message in it. He is speaking to us. We don't need a Navi to tell us that Israel is our home or where the base of Migdash was or that Yerushalayim. You look at everything that we're talking about. It's right there. It's waiting for you, right? We don't even have to do
Did you
anything.
did you notice in this week's parsha? There's a pasuk we quote in the Haggadah. It says Ani Hashem asher hotzisi eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim laman. Why did I take you out of Mitzrayim? Laman, to bring you into Eretz Yisrael. It's like the whole thing, the whole reason he took us out. And it says a similar language in the Torah, a similar lashon, I think 7 or 8 times, that the whole purpose of leaving Mitzrayim, which is when we became a nation, is in order to be in Eretz Yisrael. And it's really it says it 2 different ways. Sometimes it says, in order to get the Torah, right, to get the Torah from Har Sinai, and also Laman, that we should that we should be in Eretz Yisrael.
So
So
why is
this
anyone
is
even
like the whole
asking?
thing.
Why is anyone even asking if it's a mitzvah chiyuvis or a mitzvah kiyumis? Like I feel like we kind of get caught up in the details and
So beside the point.
we lose sight of the whole message of the Torah. We like lose. It's like Derech Eretz Kadmol Torah, like Eretz Yisrael Kadmol Torah. Like this doesn't need to be in the book. It's all that the
Yeah.
book's all about already. So I think again, I wanted to address specifically because I feel this is very important. If Jews here, for whatever reason, and we sort of talked about this at the end of last time, don't feel 100% prepared because again, I like to compare it to marriage. If you're going to get married, you have to be ready to have a wife and to be able to bond and be mature to handle it. But never allow yourself to rationalize away and fool yourself to think that Eretz Yisrael isn't where we all need to be and we all are making a mistake if we're not there. Try to be able to feel guilty and still live your life at the same time. Some of my very close
It's
relatives.
not guilty. It's not guilt. No one should feel guilt.
Okay.
They should feel inspired. They should feel driven. They should
Right, you're
feel
right. You're right. You're right. So put money aside. I know someone in Baltimore who heard me talking about this, and he started a fund where he puts like $10 away every day towards his fund to be able to live in Israel, because that's going to be in his day, every day in his mind.
But can I just say something with when on the marriage mushal that you're giving? At the same time, a person has to prepare for marriage, but nothing can really prepare a person for marriage like marriage itself. So we can all prepare for Eretz Yisrael, and it's very nice, and it's great, and it's a step in the right direction. But don't fool yourself. In the end of the day, it has to be Eretz Yisrael. Only Eretz Yisrael could really prepare you for Eretz Yisrael.
Right. I think
That's
we
the
talked about this, David, because I think there's an element of realizing that Hashem runs the world and trusting that that's if where he wants us to be is there. And if you have that attitude, then it works. When you realize that you're doing this because it's the right thing, because Hashem says this is the holiest place in the world. This is where, like you said in the last podcast, you plant our species needs to be planted in the land that it belongs. So if we're
it's
a
our
polar,
natural habitat.
get to the North Pole, Mr. Polar Bear,
Mm.
because that's where we belong. So when we get there, we have to trust that that's what Hashem says is right and allow that to work in a certain way and not have the attitude like I need to control everything. I need everything to work out perfectly. I'm going to leave if it doesn't work out. No, that's not how it works when you get married either. When you get married, sometimes there's fights, sometimes you can't control anything and you're just there for the rest of your lives, for the long haul. So when you put yourself in that situation, and that's what I'm hoping to do in 2 years from now, and I hate that it's still 2 years away, but I'm starting to plan it. I'm going to go and I'm going to say, Hashem, listen, I'm doing everything I can to get in your land, right? Did I ever tell you a story about my father's friend? Did I tell that in the last podcast? My father was walking
No.
out the gate. For those of you who don't know, my father is very passionate about Israel, and David knows that very well. But one of his stories he loves to tell is he saw a friend of his that I don't know, lives somewhere in America. And he saw him, or maybe in England. He said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And the guy looks at my father and says, "The definition of a home is you don't have to tell someone what you're doing there
Mm.
by doing here. If you don't walk into someone's house and say, 'What are you doing here?' If someone's at home, you don't say, 'What are you doing here?' That's our home. We should
Yeah.
feel at home. That's where, when I see you in Baltimore, I should say, 'David, what are you doing here?'"
I ask myself that all the time. I said last time, and it's when I walk out my front door every morning, I'm like, I can't believe I'm still. What am I still doing here? It's painful. It's really painful.
So I'm leaving.
Okay.
I'm going to Eretz Yisrael on Motzei Shabbos.
Really?
I'm davening that the flights will be canceled after I get there,
Mm.
and I'll have no reason to come back. And
That's
I'll
very selfish, Israel. Because how are we all going to get there?
Okay, so maybe they'll just cancel the flights from Israel, but all the flights will still come. And And honestly, I really, really think that I guess we should probably end. It's getting on. It's 35
Yeah.
minutes. David, I ask you, and I ask everyone listening. First of all, comment because I want other people to watch this and start thinking. And if the algorithm
And share, and share.
share this, but more importantly, everyone I think should try to learn the topic. There's a bunch of books. Maybe you could show some of them that are behind you that could bring your family and yourself closer to Eretz Yisrael. These are really, really good. They're written by very mainstream yeshivish Haredi people. Get yourself on the topic. Feel it.
Yeah. No, these are great. I think the great gift of Eretz Yisrael, this one over here, is a great place
Yeah,
to start.
it's a great place
I
to start.
have I have over here, I'm gonna turn my, my screen, you can see I have a whole palette of these books. So, here. You see them?
Wow. Yeah. My
Yeah. So $20
reach out
each,
to David for
which
your
is our cost. We're
$20
not making
voucher.
money off of it, but yeah, reach out to me and, definitely. We've already sold, I think, 30, 40 books. So read it at your Shabbos table. I wanna get feedback about this book. It's got, goes by, divided into days. It's got a daily lesson, something from Chazal, and stories about Gedolim who were and their relationship to Eretz Yisrael. I read this at my Shabbos table. It's, very engaging, very inspiring. It's a great place to start.
And I want everyone to ask themselves, first of all, where can they find the passion? Where can they ignite their good feeling? Because each one of us is going to have our own understanding and reasons based on our personalities of what connects us to the land. But ask yourself, is it normal that we still have such a weird relationship with living in Israel when there's so many Jews there and Hashem's sending messages and somehow he's making it a choice? And let's be the people that can make it still part of our choosing, where we desire to go and we push ourselves to go. Because I think even naturally, most Jews should just want to go, but Hashem is giving us this block so that we can make it our own, so we can make it our choice, so we could choose it and find it within our families, find it within ourselves to pick up and to get ourselves there like every Jew should. Ask yourself that. Look around. Is it normal what's going on around us? Are there things that are just not so normal? And instead of fighting the anti Semitism, maybe we need to fight our inner desire not to live in Israel.
Mhm. Well, Yisrael, so on that note, maybe we just leave like a little cliffhanger for
Yes.
the next podcast. So one thing I'd like to talk about is this question of anti-Semitism. Is that a reason for a person to live in Eretz Yisrael, like, or to move to Eretz Yisrael? Like, ideally, you want to say, "Well, I'm moving there because I love Eretz Yisrael, and even if it's great here, but I just want something more." But is that a good catalyst? Is that a good reason? There's the push and the pull. There's a lot of debate about this, so I want to address that, and then maybe we could address some of the chinuch challenges and in Eretz Yisrael. Anything else you'd like to discuss next time?
Well, I would like to invite, actually, I've thought of three people that live in Eretz Yisrael that I highly respect, that I think if we could invite onto the podcast to talk about some of these things. That fellow that you had from Baltimore, I absolutely was blown away by him. I think he should be put into our podcast to address some of these things because I was so, so, so in love with his passion and his descriptions, and he blows away the myths that I think everybody might have. Remind me his name again.
I don't know which one. There's so many.
The
So
guy who was a Rebbe and TA that moved to Baltimore. I
yeah,
forgot.
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll see if he wants to
Okay,
come on. So I
we'll see
don't
if he
say
wants
any.
to come on. I would
Yeah,
love to invite my father on if he wants to
absolutely.
come, and another Baltimorean, Shimon Apostol, if I was going to reach out to him. And
Wow. Yes,
I think
absolutely.
he would be a really great person to invite on together with us to talk about this topic. So I think it would be good to get and let people know that we're going to try to get people in the mix here.
Hmm.
The way we're doing the podcast, it makes it very easy to bring on more people. And I think we should chat about the things with people in Israel that is on our mind so we could get people excited about this.
And I'm also gonna be looking forward to hearing about your trip.
Yes,
So, yeah.
I can't
All
wait.
right, dude.
If I'm
Nesia
stuck,
tova.
we have to do it from there.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great. Have a nesia tova, and,
I'm
see you
actually
next time.
volunteering all over the country. Me and my wife are part of a birthright trip that's doing volunteer work
Mm.
to help out around the country.
Wow.
So I'll have a lot to say. And we're going to take a tour of the Nova site and other places like that. So it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to share it with you, Devin.
I'm looking forward. Fantastic.
All
All the
right.
best. Bye.
Take care.